Hey guys, how you doing? Martin Lopez here from the Curiosity Theory. I don't even know where I'm from, huh? From the Curiosity Theory at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And I am, like everybody always says, oh, I'm super excited, right? But I really am super excited. Tonight, we're going to talk about this quiet brilliance that I call Rockstar Introverts. Now, I didn't come up with that name. I just got to let you know. My friend Michelle Rocker came up with that name. So I'm using her name, and I think it's a cool name. So I grabbed it and I said, let's talk about that, because I thought it would be something really, really, really cool to talk about. So I, as a guy, I enjoy my quiet time. I enjoy my time by myself, the things that I do when I'm by myself, when I'm away from everybody, the kids, my girlfriend, all that stuff. I just like the time that I spend by myself. But eventually, in this whole COVID thing, I got to go hang out with people. So I have my group of friends that throughout this whole, I know I'm breaking the rules and all that. I have guys that I've been playing music with, people that I've been hanging out with, because that's me. I've just got to be with people. And, I speak on stages. I've DJ'd since I was 15 years old. I played in jazz bands. I played in rock bands and funk bands my whole life. And matter of fact, here's my bass. I'm starting to learn how to play bass. So I can't wait to hit the stage. One of the things about me is that when I hit the stage as a musician or a speaker or just somebody talking about business, when I'm done, I've got to go to my cave. I've got to go to my cave and just re-get my energy back. And that to me was kind of weird, that when I first started realizing that I did that, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I would have a gig and then I would go back home and I would be like in a really bad mood. I just did like the coolest thing. I played on stage. I had a great time, but I'd find myself in a really, really bad mood. And as I was starting to look at why that is, Yvette was telling me it's because, that's the way introverts are. And I was like, I'm not an introvert, but I don't know. What am I? Am I an extrovert or am I an introvert? Because there's all kinds of different qualities that they both have, right? And I did a Facebook feed. Here it is right here. And there was like almost 200 people responding. And a lot of people said, I'm an extrovert and an introvert. They're saying they're the same thing. And I don't know. There's qualities that introverts have that I've learned that I want to use to optimize my life. So to bring me more zest in my life and experience my life like deeper, just a greater, bigger, more awesome cut of my life. And as I go into my life and as I start to study like the different strengths and weaknesses of extrovert and introvert, I just become more aware of the need to actually be kind of like a version of both. And what I have today is I have 3 amazing friends, 3 amazing thought leaders we're going to have a conversation about Rockstar Introverts. And I have like all this list of all these different qualities that extroverts have and introverts have, and positive and negative and all that stuff. But you know what? Let's just get to it. Let's just get together and let's bring them on and see what happens. Okay. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
So that's extrovert humor. So, so are you guys, I guess the first question is like, are you like mainly introverts or I'm going to start with Michelle. Like you talk about being an introvert.
I do. And I describe myself as an outgoing introvert. And so a lot of times people hear that and they perceive that as being a contradiction, but it's really not. And I'm sure we'll get more into that in our conversation. But, being outgoing, being confident has nothing to do with being introverted. So that's how I describe myself. And I am, we've talked about on your post, the continuum. And you yourself started to say that sometimes we tend to veer towards one end of the spectrum versus the other one. I would say I am an extreme introvert. So anybody who's done Myers-Briggs type indicator, if you've ever had a look at your detailed report, if you look at mine, my introversion value is way on the far end of introversion. So probably, I think a 70 is the highest value you can have. And mine was probably somewhere between 60 and 70.
What does that mean? Like, how do you define that when you use that number and when you use that way of looking at it? I understand the Myers-Briggs, but what does that mean to you and how do you define it if you go a little deeper, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean, so there's 4 values. So if you've ever done yours, you know that there are 4 letters. And so each one, you get ranked on each of those letters on a certain value. Some people don't even bother looking at the values and just look at the letters, but I think
But
you
the
can
first
get,
letter, yeah, like the dump, yeah.
right, you can get more understanding by seeing where you actually scored, because somebody could be right in the middle, like just 1 point over towards introverted or extroverted, yet they're classified as one or the other. So there are people that really could be right there in the middle. And so I think that's why you hear a lot of people who are confused, like, am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? That's part of the reason for the confusion. The other part is that a lot of people tend to equate things like being shy with being introverted, which again, just like being out.
Which I do. That's probably
Yeah.
the number one thing I think an introvert is. That's not
Yeah,
true.
things like, confidence, shyness, self-consciousness, those things can change. And so for me, over my life, they have changed. So for example, I used to be shy and introverted. Now I'm not shy, but I'm still very much an introvert.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got Domingo like looking up. He's like, this has got him thinking. What do you got to say about that, brother?
I think, I definitely remember growing up being very shy. Although I had friends, I remember being the shy kid, right?
Mhm.
I didn't want attention. I was happy in my corner. I was very friendly. So I'm not sure how friendliness goes into introvert or extrovert. So I'm trying to figure that part out. But
Yeah.
I know as an introvert, I'm not the first one to jump out of the crowd and say, I'm here. I like the corners. I like the back of the room. I like being separate from people. And that might be a bit of shyness. I know Michelle said that she's not shy anymore, but do we have traits of shyness still, or is that more of an introvert feeling? It's a good question.
Yeah. You were when we were talking the other day, I think it was this weekend, you and I were talking, Domingo, and you were telling me how you kind of go to the back of the room and you study and you kind of watch and you like learn from the back of the room.
I think sometimes, I go to events and I won't be the one that walks in the room and sit up front. Nope. I'm not the front guy. I'm the guy who sits in the back. I'm the guy who shows up late when the lights are down and the doors are closed. I just find a seat in the back and I'm like, okay, this is my show. And I'm the guy that leaves right before the show's over.
That's more of a Mexican quality. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and the thing is and I refuel myself by going up to my room. Like I go to events and I look forward to going back to the room and just being there, because being with crowds can really drain a person. Takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But then here we are, we have to show up. So the next thing you know, here we are going on stage and now we're really, sharing, but it's just the amount of energy that we're giving out just to be present is soul drainer. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
And kind of seeing like how the world's changed a lot. And I think I'd say my mom, I would probably take my mom as a big example, where she used to just be quiet. She used to not say anything. And now she's like, she now talks about how she wants to like be more outgoing. She wants to do things. She does a lot more things. She's, I'm going to talk to Jessica. She actually wants to talk to Jessica so Jessica can do some work with her so she can be like more outgoing and stuff like that, And it seems to me like I don't know if it was before, but it seems to be like the different ways are crossing each other. Like the people that are extroverted are learning like the kind of the ninja ways of the introvert and the opposite. Like the introverts are going, hey, there's something to this extrovertedness. But you're saying, Michelle, what did you call it? You call it you're an extreme extrovert, or what did you call yourself?
I said an outgoing introvert.
An outgoing, okay.
Yeah, and I think, while I was listening to Domingo talk, it reminded me of another distinction that I think is valuable, and that's that, and since there's so many things that can confuse us, one of them is social anxiety. So sometimes, and extroverts have social anxiety too. And maybe that's why they get confused and think they're not an extrovert, but they are. It's just about how you get energized, like what recharges you. So extroverts get recharged and energized by interaction, and introverts with solitude and contemplation and quiet time. So, of course, both extroverts and introverts can have social anxiety. They can be shy. They can not know how to manage their energy. And so, again, hearing Domingo talk, it was kind of taking me back to when I used to, facilitate workshops for a national leadership and marketing development company. And that was really early on in my career when I didn't know how to manage my energy. And so I would get really drained, like he was talking about. If I had to teach a 2-day workshop, even a 1-day workshop, sometimes a half-day workshop would be really draining for me, and I would need a lot of recovery time. But ever since I learned how to protect my energy, kind of be able to put this energetic boundaries around myself, I find myself being able to go into those social situations, into large crowds, to conferences, whether I'm speaking or attending, and not get drained. And it's amazing. It's actually, I noticed a huge difference when I was at Bo Eason's last event. So Bo Eason, for everybody else besides Martine and I, is how Martine and I met. So he's our mutual mentor, and he's taught me a lot about how to manage my energy, especially when I'm in front of people. And so anyways, at the 3-day personal story power event, I noticed a huge difference last time, because at the end of the 3 days, I was actually more energized. And I thought, this is cool, because I'm actually using the tools and techniques that I talk about, and it made a huge difference. But I put work and effort into it. I mean, I was up at 5 a.m., meditating before the conference every day to make sure that I was going to be aware and not let myself get drained, but I knew how important it was to me, because I knew how much I wanted to get out of that 3 days. And I also knew that on the 3rd day, I was going to be up on stage sharing part of my story after Bo played my video. And that was important to me. I knew that I couldn't be on that last day in the afternoon. That's a dangerous time slot, right? Where everybody's really tired. And I didn't want to be tired, and I didn't want people to feel tired watching me. So I had to be, at the top of my game. So it was like every day, almost, every hour, I was checking in with myself. Like, am I conscious of what I'm doing? Am I grounded? Am I centered? And that's what makes introverts be able to go out and do whatever they want and not be constrained by their introverted nature.
Jessica, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this? I love that. By the way,
I'm agreeing with it all, because
I love what you're saying.
I've been there where I'm kind of like that. If you ever told anyone that knows me, they would never say that I have any introverted qualities. They'll be like, you're not shy, you're not introverted. And Michelle's shaking her head yes, because she knows me. Yeah. They're like, you're not shy, you're not introverted, there's nothing. But remember though, as well, like we don't ever know what's going on inside a person's head or their emotions or what's going on. And so like Domingo was saying, like, he's the kind of guy like, let me go to the back of the room and let me see who's here. And then I'll figure my way out. Like when I there's different events you have to go to, or black tie affair, white tie affair, a birthday dinner. I'm the kind of person that like, when I get there, I'm like, okay, where do I put the gift? And then I just like beeline it to a chair. Or like, what table number you're at. And I go to my table that I'm supposed to be sitting at. And then later I'll sit down and I'll start noticing people. And then I feel so guilty and bad because I passed all these people I knew along the way. And you start to think like, oh my gosh, because I'm just the nicest person in the world. And I would go say hello to everybody. But you feel bad because it's that shyness, or call it your introverted qualities, that come in. And it gets you to where you need to be. And then you recognize people and you're like, oh, I hope they didn't think bad of me that I walked right by them and I didn't say hello. But we're within our own world. It's not because you're being stuck up. It's just your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And so you get there And so I have my own introverted, shy type of qualities as well. And there's totally that balance. And I love how Michelle was hitting up on the energy because, you know, I'll do these big spiritual conferences. Yes, I'm an MD, as we discussed last time when I was on your show. But for the new people watching today, I've chosen not to practice traditional Western medicine, and I do the spiritual healing and wellness. And when you're doing big, huge spiritual conferences or anything, like Domingo was saying, they can be really energy drawing. Even a baby shower, it can be very energy drawing, especially if you're somebody that you've been trying to have a child or you've lost a child and you haven't been able to. People don't understand that that can be very trying upon you. And energetically, it's very like wearing you out even before sometimes an event happens and occurs. And so it brings you more to that introverted place. But by getting grounded, by shifting your energy, by making sure that you're saying, I'm in a protected zone, bringing in that whole spiritual grounding, whatever that is for you, God, spirit, angels, protect me, put light around me. And then that way I can be in a place where I come in and I can like smile, I can share, and I'm not drained. So like if I'm putting on the conference, like we just put on in January, I was the MC, I was running it all day. And like Michelle says, when you got that afternoon hour and you've been going all day, that's that time that everyone else is starting to tank and you got to be on and get everyone going. You got to be on. Like now, this is a later in the evening show and you know, it's 10 o'clock East Coast time. So we got people ready to go to sleep and we got people, I see some arigato, I see some friends are joining in from Japan as well. So nice. Morning for them. So, you know, we got to be lively here, but it's that whole balance. And I love that you wanted to do this show because like Domingo and Michelle are bringing up some amazing good points for people that are on both ends of the spectrum or in that confused stage. And I think the bigger thing as well is remember not to judge others. Remember not to judge others. Like, I mean, you already know what's going on in your head. So what we start to do is sometimes because of our own fears or anxieties or extroversion or introversion or shyness, we start to also project our judgment upon others. But remember, everyone else has got something else going on in their own head and their own emotions. And we don't know what happened in their day, why they're acting a certain way. So just give people space. That's my biggest thing when you're trying to figure out, even for yourself, am I introverted? Am I extroverted? Or like Michelle said, I love how she brought up, there's some people that are right like a point away from being one or the other, or being right in the middle of the spectrum, you know? Yeah. It's real.
So I'm kind of looking at like the little Hollywood Squares thing we got going on here. It's, you know, Jessica and I are up on top and then Domingo and Michelle and you got, and I'm like, and you know, hey guys, hey, but you know, I see Domingo. He's just sitting there like nice and like. And for me, I've learned how to just sit back and like really listen. But for the most part, I'm just like I can't wait. I got to say something. I'm curious. Like, what is going on in your heads? Like right now, like as.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm listening to both Jessica and Michelle. You know, and you know, it's one thing for those of you that are watching that are introverts. You know, it's one thing to have other people say, "Oh yeah, it's just that easy," right? It is difficult for every person. Is different, right? Yeah. And there's no good or bad, right? No good or bad. I know. Look, like I said, you know, when Jessica was saying when there's a table with the number, those are my favorite events. I can avoid. I know where to go. This is my seat. My name's there. Thank you. I'm done.
There's my jacket right there. Like,
this is my meal. Who's next to me? Who's next to me? Okay, I'm forced next to these two people. Okay, maybe I'll say hi. You know?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm exactly the same way as a person that's extroverted. Exactly. Go ahead.
Well, it's just, and then you go to events, but after a while, it is draining, but you know you're there for a purpose, right? You're there for, you're there to learn. So at the end of the day, the intention of why you're there kicks in. Mm-hmm. And you start feeling more comfortable and you start getting into that learning like, oh man, look what he just said. And you start getting more confident about what the purpose. But I just spoke in New Zealand back in November, right? And what's interesting is like, there's a lot of for those of you that are speakers that are introvert extroverts right now, as you're sitting on stage and going last or first, you always want to not be the first one. You always don't want to be the last one, but then you're afraid to go after someone else who's even more powerful. But I'm sitting there and I'm about to go on. And what's interesting is that the crowd not necessarily fires me up during my presentation. It's the confidence in the knowledge I have, right? It's the confidence that I know what I'm talking about. I've done what I've done, and I'm there to deliver my purpose. And for that reason, the introvert out of me kind of dissipates. And I find that to be a lot more comfortable. When you're comfortable with why you're there, who the purpose you're there, and you're delivering, when you're done and people come out, so you did a great job, it makes you feel a lot more welcome in that room. And it's an interesting how the energy shifts. But we all, we talk about we could be one point or the other. And I do believe people are both.
Yeah.
We're introverts and extroverts. I wish there was a word in the middle. I don't know what that is, middlevert, but
middlevert, a centervert.
There you go. But it's great. This is a great conversation because most people are afraid to have this conversation, right?
Go ahead, Jessica.
Well, I think people get afraid of labels. We all get afraid of labels anyways, especially because we're in such a PR friendly world and how we talk about everything or everyone. And sadly, some labels come with stereotypes or judgment. Mm-hmm. And when you say like, oh, I'm an introvert, like now we have a guilt that we just placed ourselves in an introverted class. And then we're also bringing in those energy blockages and we're thinking we can't go past it. So sometimes we're afraid to even have the conversations of I'm an extrovert. Or because then you think like, oh, well, people can possibly think of me as being that super loud, stereotypical or pompous type of extroverted person. And it's okay to be both. What it is about being you that's unique and genuine and finding out. Because I love how Michelle says, what did you say again? I'm introvert. I'm a outgoing introvert, or what's your?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm an outgoing introvert.
Too, when you were talking about, is there a word? And you guys were making up words. Well, we don't have to make up a word because there is a word for it, and it's ambivert. So they have created a word for that.
An ambivert?
Ambivert?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll type it out so people have the spelling there later on when we're done. But I wanted to say, a few minutes ago, you asked us a question, Martine, that was, for me, it made a really good point when I thought about what my answer would be. Because you said, what are you thinking about right now? You asked us on the bottom squares looking up to you. Amazing. And I thought to myself, I'm not thinking about anything because I was listening to Jessica. Okay. So for me, that was a good sign. I know that I'm present, and it reminded me that that's what tends to trip up, a lot of introverts for sure, and some extroverts too, is just thinking too much, like being on something like this and thinking about what am I going to say next. If I'm doing that and I'm thinking while you guys are talking, I'm screwed because I'm not really present with you. I'm like over here. Like if I'm really in it and I'm just, like you set it up. I love the way you set it up, this conversation to just be a natural conversation. Like we're sitting around, having drinks together. And because that's really what will save, introverts, especially from getting their energy drained. Because when they go into high pressure situations or, dinner parties, like we're talking about, conferences, is that we go in and our minds are going, a million miles a minute. And that's what's so stressful. And, so we wonder, how could I go back to my hotel room or back home at the end of the day and be so tired when I didn't do anything? All I was doing was sitting there or trying to hide in the corner, and I'm exhausted, but it's because of all the mental activity. That's what tires us out. And so what I try to do and what I try to help my clients do is to get out of their heads. So in addition to describing myself as an outgoing introvert, the other descriptor that I use a lot is that I'm a recovering overthinker.
I love that.
Because I'm still working on it. I mean, I did write a book called The Sweet Spot, which is a lot about helping people overcome nervousness and anxiety by getting out of their heads and connecting with their bodies instead, and connecting to their physical bodies and connecting to their energy. And that's, it's made the biggest difference for me.
What I hear and what everybody said was comfort is really important. And we know that in life, it's incredibly important to be safe, to be comfortable, and we seek those comforts. And I think whether you're an extrovert or introvert, I think we seek that. And feeling is, and Domingo was talking about feeling, and he kept saying the word feeling. So what I'm thinking and what I'm hearing you saying is that you're seeking a feeling of comfort, of safety, and then from that place, then you're going to move in the direction you need to move in.
Yeah.
Versus like me, I just kind of like a bull in a china shop. I just kind of come in, rah, Martine's here, let's have a good time. That's kind of like what I do. And what I've learned to do is I learned to kind of like do that because my version of what you're doing is the yin and the yang. It's the opposite of the coin. Like how I gained comfort was by dominance. It was dominance. It was about, being loud to like say like, my version was like, this is the ceiling. I'm going to set the standard in the ceiling, and that's how I created my level of comfort. And that wasn't comfort. It was exactly discomfort expressing itself in a version of maybe a fake version of comfort.
I mean, I think everybody gets there, Martine, especially after 3 tequilas. Honestly, we get that confidence.
I didn't pick that up at first. Took me a second.
It helps. But here's the interesting thing is that I talking about the dominance in the room. That's a great. If someone can build that ability up and not be over dominant, but be feel dominant and come in and be strong, that's actually a good thing for you, especially if you're there to help others and serve and do other things. I mean, you can do so much more if you're present. If you're not present, you're losing out. Either you're losing out or someone's losing out of you, right? And you're present. So I think that's important to note. But at the same time, if in today's world, it was easier to be an introvert and disappear in 1980. Today it's harder. Today it's 2020. So, well, okay, maybe in the last 2 months we all knew where everybody was, but prior to that, technology doesn't allow us to hide. We're a lot more visible and we're a lot more out there. So I don't know how technology shifted that, but me being an introvert and extrovert in the 80s is definitely, or 90s growing up, like the kids today, there's a big difference between an introvert that was born, my son who's 19, who's an introvert, compared to me being an introvert, right? That's a difference. And I guess understanding it all, no matter where you're coming from, if you're 45 like myself or 20 like my son, it's interesting to know the traits and figure out. And I love what Michelle said and Jessica said about just showing up and learning how to control your energy and being present 24 hours a day. That's fantastic. I think that's a great thing. But the question I have, I guess, for Jessica, is that something that helps an introvert, or does that just help you maintain the energy?
Ask it again. Ask the question again. I want to hear the question again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, the question was, how they mentioned earlier about maintaining the energy in a day, right? Using, especially Michelle talked about maintaining energy, staying present, and controlling and having high energy throughout the day. The question I had was, how is that something that helps an introvert? Can that help an introvert does having a high energy make it easier for an introvert to be present?
Interesting.
So the answer to your original question is both, but it's not just about having the high energy, okay? Because high energy can also do the opposite. When we have too much high energy, we go back into what you were talking about of it takes us from not being present, right? We get a little bit too excited. It's about that balance. And it's not about just guarding your energy for the day so you can have this higher vibrational. It's about finding that balance. So because otherwise what happens if you don't find that balance and get grounded, what happens, especially as like, let's say an introverted person or a shy person, or even if you're a major extrovert, but you get stage fright. And like you're talking about New Zealand, you know, I've been to like Portugal, we go to different countries, we speak on stage, and right before you go on, you have to get to that point where you're going to be, like you said, and I loved how you said, once you had where you know all your knowledge and what you're about to speak on, all of that introvertedness just goes away because you stand in your power. And that's where bringing in that light, that protection, that grounding, transmuting that energy, that allows you to come into your power. Because it's basically like, if you think of yourself, everyone that's watching has seen the movie The Wizard of Oz. And you know, the good witch, she's in that bubble, right? And she like floats around in that bubble and she comes wherever she's going. That's her car of transportation. But each one of us have that bubble. And when we don't get grounded within that bubble, when we're not protected, all of these thoughts, all of this energy is inside that bubble, our worries about what people are thinking about us. And as an introverted person or shy person, what you're always worried about, even if you think you're grounded or your energy levels are high, you're putting so much energy out there in the wrong ways of worrying about how's my presentation going to come across, or when I'm sitting next to dinner with somebody, how am I going to interact with them? And that in itself can tire you out. So what you want to do is get grounded so that the energy that's in your bubble can be transformed into just this peace, this light, this unconditional love, and within. And that power, everything that you are, like you said, being in your power of who you are, what you are, then that allows you to have these high vibrations, but high vibrations with peace, joy, standing in that power, standing in that peace, that knowing, and let your true soul, your light shine out in such a beautiful way that you are balanced, you are present, you are listening, but you are engaging and you are sharing. And I think that's the huge difference. So you get to do both when you do that. And, you know, like you going on stage in New Zealand or just at a dinner, it can be Thanksgiving dinner. People forget we get social anxiety. Like I've said on here, my family's my big fat Greek wedding, except as my big fat Hispanic wedding movie family, right? But sometimes you have anxiety even with your family that you've known for 40 plus years of your life. And you're like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to sit with these people or my in-laws or my brother's in-laws or whoever's is there, right? And you're like, you start to go back in and you just got to say, you know what? Why am I going to think about what they're judging or what they're thinking or how? Let me just bring that peace, that grounding, that power back in so I can be me, like you said. And I love how you said, so you can give all. Because I love how, Domingo, how you and Michelle were hitting on, if you're not present, then we're losing out on receiving from everyone else, but we're losing out on also the fact that was our opportunity to share who we are with somebody else. Yeah. So it's a both, I think. And I think that's a great thing for extroverts or introverts. It's just a thing for all of us.
That's really cool. I know Michelle was talking about being present, and that seems to be what you're saying. So I'd love to kind of go in a different direction, you know, because I think we've defined like the whole thing, what it is. And it seems to me like it's an extrovert and an introvert, you know, and there's the qualities that they both have. So, and I think that the tools that you guys are talking about are useful for any human being, whether you're, you know, whether you have your girlfriend coming over, your best friend coming over, you're going to make a presentation at work, or sometimes you're just a little embarrassed to walk into work because maybe it's your first day at the job, or you're hitting a stage with 1,000 people on it. So, that being said, I want to start with being present. So I'd like, Michelle, if you can share with us, like, how do you get present? Like, what is your way? What is your system, or what are your steps to getting present? Like, what are you doing in getting present, and have it be for, you know, it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? Because it's being present is being present, correct?
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Like, what do you do to get present? Like, you know what I mean? I'm talking about like steps, like ABC kind of thing.
Okay, sure. I want to say just one thing. That's
absolutely,
because Domingo said, like, he said his age, and I just want to say that you look really young. So I just had to get that off my chest because I think you said you were 45 or something. But
I'm 22. How do I look?
You look amazing.
Let's move on to the question. What was that?
And I love that you have your guitar in the background, and that I'm wearing my Rockstar theme, chain here.
Which
so
looks fabulous.
Yeah, somebody said they loved your necklace.
Yeah.
Let me see
They
that.
did? Oh, good.
Look at that right there. Kimberly said, "I love your necklace."
Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks so much.
I know one of the things that we talk, you say hi to everybody that's, welcoming, that's coming in on the show and all that. And people always do that. What I find, and I just want you to go, everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching, the reason I don't do that, I just find that interrupts the conversation. So everybody that's listening, like, thank you for being here. It's like, really, thank you for being here. And if you want to say where you're from, if you want to chat, all that, please do that. I only have like an hour with you guys, and I want to make sure that I just use it all up as much and give as much value as I can. So all you guys out there, Kimberly, Janae, Lindsay, Elisa, and everybody, thanks for being here. And I acknowledge all you guys for being here. Thank you. So go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. And Jessica, I just wanted to acknowledge, her answer to Domingo's question first, because I thought it was right on. And, so I was nodding right along with you, because you talked about that balance and how you don't want too much energy. And I completely agree with that, because, and so I mentioned the name of my book is A Sweet Spot. And I find, like, with everything, there's always a sweet spot. So just like she said, you don't want too much energy, or else it's like too much and you're not present and you're not grounded. But if you're too calm and too relaxed, then you might be just like too boring. So I never want that either. And that it reminded me, so when you asked the question, Martine, because, when I sit down to get present and do the steps like you're talking about, I do want to be calm, but I don't, like, if I'm getting ready to do something like this or getting ready to speak on stage, I don't want to be too relaxed. Like, I don't want to get into that meditative state. Like, I think we've all met, somebody who's a very calming presence, but then it's like, it's nice for a little bit, but after a while, it's just like,
Get to work.
Yeah, you're just like sleepy, or you get bored. And so I just, I try to find that sweet spot where I'm feeling my own energy and radiating energy so that people can feel that. But just like Jessica said, it's not too much though. And I do have that kind of energetic bubble so that my high level of energy isn't like spilling out over everybody and like overwhelming them. Like, I keep it to myself so that it's like nice and concentrated, so that it's just really powerful.
Let's talk about that. That's a great thing. Let's talk about sweet spot. And I'd like everybody to kind of chime in and what that is, because I think we all have that. And I think that's real important to distinguish. So let's talk about that. Keep going, please. Yeah.
So exactly, right. What I was saying is how I would simplify it. If I just had a short amount of time to explain it, what the sweet spot is about finding your energetic sweet spot. And it is just that, where you are, calm, yet alert. You're relaxed, yet you're magnetic. So, and so for me, the work that I do and the work that I practice is, it is about me. So it's about me feeling good and feeling grounded, but it's also about how I'm perceived, because I want to be effective. And so it's also about, generating that magnetism. And that's why it's a lot about energy. It's about developing that thing that, people can't quite put their fingers on, that they're just like, I don't know, like what I like about that person or why I want to be, around their presence. Like, sometimes they just don't get it. They're just like, I don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it. It's because it's energetic. It's an energy thing. And they're just like, I don't know, but I'm just drawn to this. And usually what that means, to really generalize it, is that you're alive. If you have that and people are drawn to you in that way, you're alive and you're present, and you're not just in your head and looking up at the sky or looking down at your shoes and thinking too much.
You're right here.
People crave that. They crave being around people who are alive because they want it to rub off on them. They want to be alive too. They want to stop thinking so much. They want to stop worrying so much.
That's great. I love that. So sweet spot is where you find yourself alive, where you find yourself in a balance and able to be however you are, like however your personality is, however your energy, how you find it to be valuable in that moment, and a service, as I hear you saying. Cool. I'm gonna ask
sure, you know, that because you asked for steps, and I do have steps, and I'll just explain them quickly, and then we can come back if you want some more details.
Absolutely. I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah.
And we have a question for Domingo, but I didn't want to, you know, slide over the question you asked. So I would say, you know, my 3 steps are drop in, let go, and light up. And so drop in for me is about drawing my attention and connecting to my power center. So for everyone, that's, you know, the center point of gravity within your body, and putting your energy and your focus there. And that in itself, so where that space is about 2.5 to 3 inches below your navel and in the center of your body. And so what that does is help bring the energy down from your head.
Are you breathing to it? Are you breathing to it? Is that what you're doing, or? You
can, but it's not, you know, so deep. So here's the thing is that when I'm teaching this, I don't want you thinking too much about it. Like that's the opposite of what I want, is for you to be like, am I doing this right? Am I breathing in, you know, 3 inhalations and then 3, you know, I don't want you thinking about it. Okay. So it's just like a natural breath, whatever is natural for you. Because as, you know, overthinkers, we don't need, you know, really detailed steps. So just connecting with your own breath, with your own body, with that specific point. So that's drop in. The let go is about releasing self-consciousness and being able to let people really see you. You know, and so I know all of us are speakers here. There's probably people watching who are speakers or aspiring speakers. And, you know, common advice is to picture the audience naked, which is, you know, really funny because actually you're the one that feels naked, you know, when you're up there. But one of the keys is to being comfortable, like just showing people who you are and sharing your heart and being willing to be vulnerable up there. So that's what's helped me, you know, and that is hard for introverts because, you know, we tend to be reserved type of people and we don't always share a lot about ourselves. But if we can start to, you know, dip our toes in slowly and start showing people more of ourselves, that's what helps us, you know, out in the world, out in the, you know, and mingling with all the extroverts, is if we can drop in, let go, be willing to be emotionally and energetically naked with people, let them see who we are. And so that's the let go part. And then light up is really about radiating that energy and filling your aliveness in your body. I like to think about it, you know, if I'm visualizing it in a meditation, I picture it as carbonating my body or my energy. So kind of that fizzy, bubbly kind of feeling, you know, just that aliveness. Like you could do it to yourself. You could like tickle yourself, give yourself goosebumps to kind of feel, what does that feel like? Or just, you know, kind of channeling, thinking about a song, like the song that just really gets you. Like, you know, if so, like what is just a powerful song that brings up a lot of emotion for you? You know, listen to that, think about it, you know, start to sing it to yourself and feel that sort of aliveness. So drop in, let go, and light up. Those are my 3 steps.
I love those. So that sweet spot, we're going to stick with sweet spot for a little bit. And I want to address something. So my neighbor who I grew up with, Tammy Warner, now Tammy Warner Hayes, some days I can relate to the introvert and an extrovert. I'm a mixed up mess. I love you, Tammy. And then Jessica says, not a mixed up mess, just pure beauty that is uniquely you. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that answer real quick? And I don't mind if we segue and go wherever, but Jessica, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think it goes back into what I was talking about earlier. We start putting or filling the projections of others, of the stereotypes of what are, and we're thinking that, well, I'm an introvert, but I'm an extrovert. And then we think we have to make an excuse for it. And especially, I'm not saying the men don't do this, but as females in our social system, we're always taught to like coat what we feel or what we think with an excuse or a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And we're just always taught to explain things. And I know Martin and I have had these kinds of conversations about relationships or how we've all been grown up and things like that, right? But you know what? You're not a mixed up, you're not a mess. You know, you're just a beauty. You are uniquely you, and there is every single part. So I would say empower your beauty, empower all that you are that is uniquely you, because sometimes I'm not, and I know she's joking. I know she, like, you can feel the,
Tammy.
you
I
feel the
tell
energy. You can
Tammy,
feel the
you are
energy.
beautiful. You
feel
are
her
exactly what
joking.
Jessica's saying. You are that. Keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah,
So I
you
wanna
can
make
feel the
you know,
lightness and everything coming through. But at the same time, when we start to joke, then we're putting that energy out there. And others start to think that we don't have the self-confidence or we're insecure. And then we start to create more energy blockages, and which feed to that insecurity, which feed more to the introvertedness. Or then, like how you said, and I love how you said, Martine, sometimes you were becoming more extroverted and being that loud person that walked in so you can feel more comfortable. And we don't get to feel ourselves. We don't get to feel our balanced self. So once you can empower your beautiful part of you that's just uniquely you, then you have like that grounding that we've been talking about. You have that power and knowing, like Domingo was saying, and you can just be uniquely you. So don't apologize for it. Just say, hey, you know, when Martine was saying, are you an introvert, Jessica? We're doing this show. And I was like, you know, I'm kind of both. Like, I have my introverted qualities at times, and I've got my way extroverted qualities at times. And call it shyness, call it whatever you want. But it just depends on the day and where I'm at. So I just know I'm uniquely me. And it's taken me years as well to come into it, because for me, going into that part, I had to learn that I was uniquely me because of all these spiritual gifts. I was born awake in this world. I used to think everyone spoke to dead people. I used to think everyone spoke to the angels. I used to thought everyone saw this mystical world that I lived in and I saw, and crystals. Oh, I'm listening to messages from them. And you start to find out people don't hear these things. They don't understand it. They don't see it. It by nature, because other people don't see or understand things from your perception or from your perspective or your understanding, that pushes you to become introverted because you're not allowed to share it. So this happy-go-lucky, happy child that would dance around, do things, became more introverted and more closed off. And then I came back into my power of finding my uniquely me balance and being okay talking about all these things out in the open and talking about spiritual world, extraterrestrial, whatever it may be, and not being afraid of it, not being afraid of what other people think. Not being afraid of other things that are going on. And so that just, once you start to do it in like these little aspects, like we're all talking about, whether it be going to a dinner, whether it be getting on stage, something at work that you're presenting, being a teacher. There's teachers that are introverted and they have stage fright to share with kindergartners, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know some of them.
Yeah.
I work with them. But when we can become more stronger with our beautiful light, because everyone out there, I guarantee you, I've seen some of your other shows besides the one I've been on. Everyone that is out there on your show, watching your show, they're all beautiful, amazing souls. And as we're coming into this world right now where we're lighting up our souls, we're getting more stronger with who we are, what we are, and our whole essence of the humanity, but each one of us individually as well. As we do that and we empower our uniquely part of us, the unique part of us. So be uniquely you. And if it's a hot mess, it's a hot mess, but own it.
Right. Be your hot mess. Be the best hot mess out there.
Best hot mess you're going to be.
How do you find your sweet spot, or how do you find your balance, Domingo?
You know, I think experience gives me my balance eventually, because look, I can relate to what Jessica's talking about, because, you know, I don't have the same necessarily gifts that she does, but I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? I'm one of those guys that like, you know, I have an idea. And coming from where I come from, I mean, immigrant family and, you know, not really educated and so on, you know, if you come out and say, I'm going to do this, you know, the whole world's a turn against you. Like there's one, you're not going to do it. Two, I don't believe, you know, so it's almost like being the odd one. So yeah, you get a little introvert because of that situation, and you get shy, and everybody goes through it, and I get it, right? But I know also that over the years, as I succeeded as an entrepreneur, and I've accomplished, you know, building 6 companies and doing this and selling a company for, you know, some money, that part of that one bit that made me a little bit shy and introvert made me, when it comes to that, I'm an extrovert. I'm positive.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I missed the.
It's just what I mean. It's like I can portray extrovert traits when it comes to, if you ask me right now how to build a business, I'm on spot, right? That energizes me. But if I go into a room where I don't know anybody, you know, I go back to my introvert side, you know, and so it's a nature. I'm sharing this because I want people to understand, everyone who's watching now, live or recording, that I love what Jessica said. It's okay. We're not a mess, right? We're not a mess. You know, no, we're not a mess. I almost convinced myself I was. Yeah, just
right. The business talking to you.
A little bit of Martine, maybe, but that's, you know, but you know, it's just, I guess my sweet spot is this. My sweet spot is if I'm going somewhere where I know who I am and how I show up, that's my sweet spot, right? I'll go to that before I go into an unknown. And so I have a tendency of going in the directions where I can feel a little bit more confident. But over time, I then can go to those other areas where I wasn't comfortable before, because eventually you start building up a nice positive skin on you where you don't mind showing up no matter where you're at. You know, but you know, it's an interesting situation, and I mean, we all have it in one way or another. But I just want to let, you know, Jessica and Michelle and you, Martine, know that, you know, this is a great conversation because very few people are willing to have, you know, be this bear.
Yeah.
You know, be this, you know.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So we've got about another 10 minutes or so. So I'm gonna ask you guys, just kind of do this one really quick. So what I've heard is that we show up, and what we're present to is feelings, and those feelings could be of comfort or discomfort. I think that as human beings, we notice the discomfort feelings, because those are the ones that we need to protect and defend ourselves, so that we can, you know, we can just probably just survive. At the point that we find ourselves in our sweet spot, then we can express that, you know, that part of us that's our whatever that natural gift is. You could be a singer, you could be, you know, somebody that heals, you can be somebody that teaches people to be, you know, a speaker. You can do all kinds of different things. You can teach somebody like Domingo, you can teach somebody how to build a business. We don't all have those same specialties, but the sweet spot, in a sense, that's not what you're saying, Michelle, but what I'm saying is the sweet spot is when you can find the balance inside of that thing that you are, that's your expression. That's kind of how I hear it a little bit. And so then the thing is, how do you be present? How do you be present so that you're not maybe over talking or you know, dominating or backing away, so that you can actually be present and stay in that sweet spot? How do you do that? Because I think that's really important. Because we can tell people that are shy or people that are introverts, you can say, well, just say what you have to say. That's really good, because, you know, nobody really responds to that. You know, I mean, Nike's slogan is just do it. But, you know, really who understands that are people that are just doing it, right? But the people that aren't just doing it, they're like, what the heck does that mean? How do you just do it, right? So you find your sweet spot is kind of what I'm hearing. You drop in, you let go, and you light up. And then in order to maintain that, I think you have to be present in that. Would you agree with that, Michelle?
Yes, because, you know, it's like I had mentioned before, is that for me, in order to be successful over the day in doing that and managing my energy, I have to be constantly checking in. So it's like you're saying, it's like I might work with a client and I tell them, I can get you to that place. I can get you to your sweet spot relatively quickly, but it's maintaining it. That's the trick.
Yeah.
I'm like, because this is what happens to people, is like, I can get them there, but then like our session's over and they stand up and then they start acting like they normally do. And they walk out the door and I'm like, no, like slow down. Cause like, don't take another step if you know that you're happy. Like, just go.
They leave the crystals behind, right? Right, Jessica? No, you got to take the crystals with you.
But I think that when you were explaining this, you know, like you leaned back, and because I think that's how we can create an awareness, is like, when we sense that from other people,
Mm-hmm.
or when we feel ourselves doing that, leaning forward, and we know our energy is like too much out, we can correct it. I keep this on my desk. It's over here. I'm going to show it to you guys. And I actually got it from Bo. And so I don't know if you can see it, but it says right the ship.
Yeah.
And that just reminds me to just right my ship, my physical and energetic, body. And it's a lot of that, if I feel like I'm moving too fast, just like racing through life, I know that I need to take a step back, and if I'm just kind of slumped back or leaning, I know that I need to fix it the other way, and just kind of find that center, find that sweet spot. But I want, and I know we don't have a lot of time left. So before we leave, I just wanted to say something that Domingo made me think of, because I'm so glad that he brought up, being an entrepreneur as an introvert and business development, because I think that's where we can really, we have the potential to get in trouble. On your post, you mentioned a lot of favorable characteristics and traits of introverts. And then you said something like on the negative side, and then you said, well, we'll get to that, during our live. And so when I thought about what is the negative, this is, I know for me, like if left to my own devices, like I'm not going to go to the networking function. I don't like going to the dinner party, and just, meeting new people. Like if I have to, or if I need to show up to speak, or if I'm teaching a workshop, obviously I'm going to show up. But if it's something that's like optional, sometimes like
optional.
I
love that.
So,
it's optional.
I need an accountability partner. Because this is
Right.
something
If you invite Michelle to a party, make it not optional. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that in complete jest because I understand what you're saying. I understand the humanity and the vulnerability of what you're saying. And I thank you for that. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Bo, so Bo and his wife Dawn, and one of his keys to his success that he talks about is, he says, get a Dawn. And he says, because Dawn is the person that makes him go to that party and make new contacts and do the networking, because he doesn't like that. Like he loves to be on stage, but he doesn't do that. So we all need to find somebody or a system of holding ourselves accountable that's going to make us go out and do it. Because if we have the tools that we're talking about, protecting your energy, staying out of your head, all these things, having fun, being present, once we get there, we'll be fine. We'll be rock stars. It's just like the trick is actually getting there sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's really cool. So we're at almost an hour, so we're just gonna go ahead and kind of just finish it up, and then, but I want to actually address the thing about being present. So you find your sweet spot. You're going to talk about business. You're going to talk about building businesses. That's your sweet spot, Domingo. Can I assume that?
Over time, it became my sweet spot, right?
Okay.
Knowledge about business is something that I am, on the spot, readily available to deliver on, right? But that
how do you maintain that presence, or how would you say, let's say from the introvert perspective, what would you say to an introvert that finds their sweet spot, that needs to maintain that presence? Because in a meeting, I'll tell you something, like I'm an extrovert. I will dominate conversations. I will say what I have to say, and I notice people stop talking, but I need them to talk. But I just have a style that I just and then people stop talking. It's not that I want to, but so for somebody that comes from that direction, or they have something to participate, something to give, but they've got to maintain that sweet spot and that presence to be able to give that. How do you do that, Domingo?
I think for me, one thing I learned over time is that because I have my knowledge, I share it. But I come from a sharing place, right? Mm-hmm. I don't come dominating the knowledge. I'm like, hey, how can I help you? And I find that by serving others, I'm able to maintain my energy. Because I'm able to come from a place where let me share what I know. And if you know, as long as you're willing to learn, I'm willing to share. And when we go to places like that, there's always going to be someone who says, "Oh, I love what you have to say." And so you keep that conversation going, and you find that place, and that really does allow you to maintain it, right? So if you come from a place where you're giving and you're sharing, you know, we don't all want to be sold. We don't want to all be told that, hey, I've done this, I can do this for you. No, just hey, let me be a place of service. And I find that my sweet spot maintains. I'm in that spot for a long time, and I feel good about it.
And you feel good, and so you come out and you want to do it again and again.
Yes.
Cool. So Jessica, when you go into a situation, you're more of an extrovert then, right?
I would say I am, especially now. But I'm not. I'm kind of like that Michelle kind of person. I have how she's saying that she's the outgoing introvert. I could be that extrovert that has my introverted part.
So let me give you a challenge then. Let me give you a challenge. Let's say you find yourself in a place of discomfort, like you're going into a place that you want to be and you're uncomfortable. And you just find yourself in discomfort, but you want to be there. How do you find?
And that's the beautiful part. Now I've learned how to do that, especially going deeply into all the energy work that I do now. Cool. So when I find myself in that place, and we're actually going to talk about this tomorrow, we'll be coming live on Enlightened Circles on Facebook. It's about migrating your mind shift. So a lot of times we have our mind shift in a certain place. And this could be for like how Domingo was talking about and Michelle about entrepreneurship, about whatever it might be. We have our mind shift already. And we've been mind shifting a lot, even prior to COVID-19. Then we get into something like COVID-19. And because we're feeling all the energies of everyone else around. So when I might go into
real quick, act like I'm a fifth grader. I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, great. I was going to say, I was just getting there actually exactly. When you go into something where you're uncomfortable, right? Like now we're feeling all these energies from everyone else. So sometimes we're like, why am I even uncomfortable? Okay. So it's about shifting my mindset, shifting everything I'm feeling or thinking within my mind for me, I take that deep breath in. I allow myself to connect with God, source, universe. I allow myself to connect with everything that's great and amazing and divine from outside. Allow that to come in.
Okay. So take that deep breath. What did you just say? So I'm a fifth grader, and you just said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I know what you're talking about because I'm into this. Okay. But I'm a fifth grader. Like
I would say as a fifth grader, stop, take your breath, take your space for you, right? Take your space for you, honor where you're at, honor what you're feeling, because we deserve to feel what we're feeling as well. As introverts, extroverts, you deserve to feel what you're feeling. So if you're afraid right now, let's honor the fact that you feel a little bit afraid. But take your breath and know how amazing and beautiful and great you are. And then let's try the math problem again. Let's try talking to the girl again. Let's try whatever we're doing, and let's connect ourselves with everything we know or think is beautiful, great in this world or universe. Bring it into everything you are. Bring all that you are that's great and amazing, and stand in that confidence, stand in that power. And then you're going to know that fifth grade, right? Multiplication, division. You're going to know that 10 divided by 2 is 5 without having to hesitate and get blocked. Let the energy blocks be released by allowing yourself to just be at peace.
Cool. So I'm a fifth grader and I say, oh, I like Peggy, but she's with all those people and I want to go talk to Peggy. So I walk up to Peggy and I go there and I go, oh, I can't do that. And I walk away. What do I need to do for myself to regain myself? Because
you deserve, I like to say this when somebody's in a situation like that. You're with a no to begin with. You were at a no to begin with, because a lot of times what we have is a fear of talking to somebody because we're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of not hearing the answer we want. But if you don't go ask the answer, or you don't go start talking to Peggy, you're never going to be talking to her to begin with. You're never going to hear what Peggy has to say, and you're never going to be able to share with her you. Just going back to what Domingo was saying earlier.
Cool. Awesome. I love it. I love your deep answers.
We all got some deep answers here tonight, but so did everyone that was watching. They had some deep questions, some beautiful deep comments, and just amazing energy. And thanks for, I think I'm talking on behalf of all three of us. Thanks for having us on here for such an amazing conversation. Just like Domingo and Michelle were saying, not everywhere that you can find where you're sitting there so bare and having these conversations and bringing things out in the open so that we can all partake more and be stronger.
The whole thing about the curiosity theory is so often like I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Like, and honest to God, like probably half the things you say, I'm like, what? And because it's not for me, like I don't have an attachment for this conversation. It's not for me. I just trust that this is for people that are going to listen. And people are listening for something for themselves. And I look and see who Michelle is, and I watch who she is on her, Instagram, on Facebook, and how people interact with her, and how she brings, like, people just acknowledge her, and she does like, all right, so authentic, Michelle, the stuff you say and the stuff you reveal about yourself. It's just so cool. And the same thing with you, Domingo, and how much into service you are, and Jessica, the light you bring. And I just trust, like I just know and I trust that if I'm curious, that something's good is going to come out. And I hope all you guys listening, I hope somebody out there's listening, that what we've talked about, what Jessica or Domingo or Michelle has said over the last hour and 5 minutes can make a difference for you in your life, and that we can impact you positively. And how can people get a hold of you? Let's start with Jessica. Like, what do you do? And like, because we don't talk. So that's the thing about this is we're not going to talk about like what you do, but because it's about who you are. And so now that we're almost done, like, what do you do, and how can people get a hold of you, Jessica?
So I'm a multidimensional healer. I'm an MD, medical doctor, who's decided not to practice medicine, but I'm an MD multidimensional healer. So I work in different ways with different modalities, formats, with energy, assisting people doing exactly what we're talking about today as well, empowering themselves. I work with entrepreneurs, business owners, as well as just the mom or dad who's out on the street working, trying to make their shifts into being more of themselves and everything that they are, and connecting with their spiritual selves, getting themselves balanced, clearing, cleansing energy blocks, all these different things we have that have been holding us back in life, getting people to this more beautiful place with all the rewards that we deserve to be experiencing in this lifetime, because everyone's amazing. So it's a little bit of what I do with Enlightened Circles.
And my mother is trying to, my mom wants to work with you, and Ingrid wants to work with you as well. I'll talk to her tomorrow. And then you do, what is enlightencircles.com? What is that? That's your
enlightencircles.com. That's where you can find me. It was like a name I felt because I'm assisting everyone to enlighten their circles within. But like we are right here, connect with enlightening our circles and making that chain throughout this world, and everything else is this universe. So, I'm a medical medium, I'm a psychic. So sometimes by scanning people, we can release energy blockages within the body and assist people in healing and curing physical illnesses. But also it's more so those emotional, those spiritual blockages as well, and getting through that. And a lot of times things physically manifest in our body, but we can enlighten our body, enlighten our spirit, enlighten ourselves, and create the circles within that are healing, and then share that with everyone else. So we have this beautiful domino effect, but more so a lighted chain across and around.
I love it. Domingo, what are you up to, brother?
So what I did is recently I just delivered on a virtual summit. Where I brought 35 amazing speakers in. And my purpose right now is to really help motivate, make a big impact for entrepreneurs to go out there and, manifest their dreams. That's the biggest thing. That's my give right now. It's what I want to do. It's my purpose. And so, so what I created was a summit for me to bring those experts, and I have interviews with them, and I get personal with them. And then I help them really give a lot of impact to everybody who's watching. So if you go to the stimulussummit.com, you can see the last one I just did last week, which I'm recovering from. I just went through like 50 hours of, I feel like, personal one-on-one with amazing.
It was intense. It was awesome. Yeah.
And so, I'm just getting ready for the next one. So that's my focus right now.
And if somebody needs help, what kind of help would somebody call you for?
Here's the thing. So I've built 6 of my companies to 7 figures, and I created one, all of them from napkin ideas, but I took one from a napkin idea and had a nice 8-figure exit, right? I'm the kind of guy that people say, okay, I've been doing this the same in business for a long time. I need another set of eyes to look at what I'm doing to help clear up the blockage that they're having for allow companies to grow. So that's why I travel a lot internationally, because I have, clients all over the world, actually.
That's cool.
But the summit for me was my way of it's my giving, and then that's what I really enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your service. And that summit was amazing. Definitely go back, guys. And if you get a chance to go back and take a look at the summit, look at it. There's some just amazing speakers on it, and some people that have a lot of value in the way that Domingo interacts with them, the way he pulls out great information is just really invaluable. Michelle, the sweet spot. I just got to do a whole 1 hour with just you. You got so much to talk about. Tell us about the sweet spot and what are you up to?
Okay. And I wanted to first say, I loved your question about, was it Peggy? Yeah, Peggy is the little girl you wanted to go talk to, right? And so when you asked that, I thought about how I would have answered that. And I would say that Peggy is over there, thinking about how she's being perceived, like, oh no, how do I look? How am I going to sound? So when you realize that Peggy's having all those thoughts that you're having, it allows you to worry a little bit less about, your own performance or saying or doing the right thing. And so that's what I help people do, is to let go of some of that nervousness and anxiety. And one of the phrases I like to use is, it's not about me, and that sets me free. And once I learned that, and once I learned how to, as Domingo was talking about, really focusing on the message and the value that you want to bring, that's a huge key. And I don't think, sometimes I'm embarrassed to even admit it, because this was like well into my, speaking and facilitating career. But I gave the eulogy for my Uncle Andy's funeral. And that was the first time that I thought, when I spoke in front of a group, that it wasn't about me. Which is embarrassing, because like before that, I was just like, I wanted to be perceived as a polished, speaker. And I wanted people to give me great evaluations. And I was so much about like doing a great job. But in delivering the eulogy, it forced me, like I didn't even think about it as a speaking, opportunity. It was just an opportunity to make people feel something, to deliver a message, and to have them remember my Uncle Andy. And it was like, and that experience, having it totally be just about that, helped me carry that forward and, in the rest of my messages that I deliver to people. So I love helping people find their story and be able to deliver it with power and vulnerability. And I really just appreciate, how you described me and what I do and what I stand for, and how willing I am to share myself and my experiences with people. Because, one of the stories that I developed at Bo's event, is very personal. And it's about how, my husband, Brian at the time, made a sex tape of us behind my back. I didn't know about it. That's something that it's hard to talk about at first. And it's hard to think about, are people going to care about this? Can I connect this to my business? But, I dissected it and I learned how to tell it in a powerful way that demonstrated how I could connect it to being, emotionally naked, being vulnerable with people, being able to share your message in such a real, raw, way. And so one of the things I do is help people figure out what their powerful story is and figure out how to be able to tell it in a powerful way. And then I also help people manage nervousness, anxiety, and not just, social anxiety, but true anxiety, like panic attacks, and to be able to feel like you can handle anything that comes your way. I've been through a lot of shit. And I don't know if I can say that on your show, but I just did.
Everybody speaks French here.
Good. Because just in the last few months, without the tools that I've been talking about this whole hour, I would probably be like curled up in a ball in the corner of the room right now. You know, so it's, I mean, I love helping people with confidence and magnetism and public speaking, but one of the most satisfying things that I do is help people overcome that kind of anxiety and deal with, you know, stress that could otherwise be debilitating. And my book
I'm just
is
reflecting on
available
what
on
you're saying.
Amazon.
I'm not ignoring it. I'm like reflecting on it. It's like really cool stuff.
Good.
So your book, how do people get it? Is Amazon?
It's on Amazon, yes.
Okay.
I'll post the link there in the comments, but you can just search for The Sweet Spot, Michelle Baca.
Awesome. Okay. You guys mind hanging out? I'm going to just say some closing thoughts and I'll be right back. Just kind of hang out. Thanks a lot. Thanks. I just want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. It's a little bit more than an hour, but it just went by so fast. And the value that, oh God, Michelle and Domingo and Jessica bring is amazing. When I thought about the idea of bringing on introverts, you know, having that thing, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be a boring conversation because no one's going to want to talk. But that's kind of like, you know, that's kind of like the way that introverts are kind of perceived. But in an instant, I knew that when you are somebody that has something to say, whether you're extrovert or introvert, when you are in that thing that Michelle calls her sweet spot, and I didn't call it that, but I'm going to start using that. But when you're in that sweet spot, when you're in your element, when you're an expert and people are willing to listen, like Domingo's talking about, or you have something to be healed, like Jessica works on, then you get to be who you are. So if you're an introvert out there, I, as an extrovert, love hearing what you have. And sometimes you just got to be able to push through people like me that just dominate. But what you bring to the party is invaluable because it is, in my opinion, been thought through and been balanced and been and you've looked at it. And you know, it's such a gift. You're such a gift to the world, whether you're on a stage, you know, singing, or whether you're just a one-on-one with a friend. And the vulnerability that you bring, when you can bring vulnerability and you can bring honesty and truth, you can make a difference in the world. And you might not know who you're making a difference in the world for, but just got to trust and believe that you are. So thank you for hanging out with me tonight and hanging out with Jessica and Domingo and Michelle. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.